So the video ended, but there's still a little more to go. So the three-part process involves description, interpretation, and evaluation. So on the next 3 slides, I want you to think about this little snippet I'm going to read to you from the chapter in the book, which is at the top of page 60. I want you to imagine we are watching 2 4th grade Latino girls doing an assignment at their desks, which are organized in quads. You look over and see them talking back and forth, not in loud, disruptive voices, but low murmuring. One of the girls begins to write on her paper. Then they begin talking again. What is going on? So when you're describing a situation like that, you're just describing what you see. You're not interpreting, you're not judging the action, just what you see in your plain sight. However, your implicit biases will naturally want you to judge the behavior or action. So go ahead, take a second and talk amongst yourselves about what you saw in that situation. Next, you're going to interpret it. Interpreting what is going on, giving it meaning, so the students are talking to each other. Why is that going on? Give it some meaning. Have multiple interpretations in mind for the students' behaviors and motivations. So not just one separate interpretation of what's going on, because that would be biased. And then the book mentioned that if you're trying to compare someone's actions, don't ask a student why they're doing something. Ask them, would you do that in front of your grandmother? And if they would, in most cases, it's part of their culture. So something that you might not do in front of your grandmother could be completely different on what they would be willing to do in front of their grandmother. So that was just a little comparison that the book used as an example when you're trying to figure out if a behavior could be negative or positive based on that own individual student's culture. And then lastly, evaluating. So in any given situation, in the end, you need to assign positive or negative significance to the action based on initial interpretation. Okay, so you're going over what you saw, then you're trying to interpret it, giving a couple different situations, possible situations, and then you need to decide, okay, which of those are positive, which of those are negative, based on those actions. So again, go ahead and take a second to talk amongst yourselves in the group about the situation that I read to you. Next, the book really focused on having a lot of mindful reflection, and they focused back on the James example that I read to you earlier. So if Dr. Newman needs to read that again, it's on page 58. And so after thinking about the James situation, being a culturally responsible teacher, you need to spend some time viewing the replay in your mind. Okay, so taking time out of your day, maybe after class, reviewing what happened in that situation, trying to replay all the aspects in your mind. Make a list of your reactions, interpretations, and assumptions of behaviors as the scenario replays. What did you react to? Okay, so she reacted to James answering her no. How did she interpret it? Well, she interpreted it as a negative behavior and him being defiant, and based on what belief of assumptions. So I'm sure she was assuming that most of her students wouldn't answer that in that sense because they would understand that it was a directive instead of a question. Then try an alternative explanations based on what you're learning about the student's deep cultural beliefs, norms, or practices. Okay, so in this situation, you would need to study your students better, and one of the most important parts in teaching is knowing your students well. So focus on what the student said or did, and then think, okay, why do you think they did that? Then check your explanations. Share with other culturally responsive professionals. Go to other teachers in your building, other EL colleagues within the district, and see if that type of situation has happened to them before and how they handled it, or what those students did specifically in their classrooms. And then build your cross-cultural background knowledge. So it's always an ongoing learning process, and you definitely need to expose yourself to those new types of experiences, such as what just happened in the James situation. And then leverage technology and watch positive movies, television series. It'll allow you to virtually step into other cultural experiences. And remember, the point of this is to kind of lose your bias, lose your stereotypes of others. So remember to watch, don't judge. Next, like I mentioned at the beginning of the PowerPoint, you need to identify your triggers. And so there are 5 elements of social interaction that activate strong threats and rewards to your brain. And this all goes back to your lizard brain. You need to anticipate situations that might make you uncomfortable, confused, and socially embarrassed, such as an amygdala hijacking, is what Leah explained to us before. So 1 is standing. How others perceive you, how important they believe you are, your peers, and people you work with, your friends. This could affect you because you could feel expelled or ostracized from the group for being different or inadequate in certain situations, and that could engulf in amygdala hijacking. 2 is certainty, which involves your clarity and predictability in social situations. So this could engulf a fear or be a potential threat when embarrassing self, unable to know what to do in a situation, or venturing into unknown, such as out of control or no safety. You need to know both of these things about yourselves, and it kind of goes along with your own cultural background, like we talked about earlier, knowing how you think others perceive you and how important you think others' opinion on yourself are, because that could in fact lead to a huge trigger depending on your beliefs in those things, which is fine, but you just need to know, once again, about yourself and be prepared for those types of situations. Then 3, connection and security with another, whether new people you're interacting with, or your friends or your foes. So this could be a potential threat, being an outsider or excluded, or if you lose an important connection with someone, say you and your friend are having a fight, this could lead as a huge trigger and cause you to be upset. And again, it's the emotions in your lizard brain that you're kind of are instantly feeling. You don't have time really to prepare yourself, so you need to realize how you personally feel in those certain situations from your past, and knowing that could potentially happen. Control over one's life. Your behavior can have a positive effect on the outcome of a situation rather than something out of control having the influence. So someone telling you what to do that is inconsistent with your values, in the sense that then you would be losing control of your values, your life. I know personally that was something that would trigger me, and I would be very uncomfortable with someone telling me that to do something that goes against my values. I would probably lash out and start arguing with them, since I kind of do tend to have a stronger personality in that sense. So I know that when something like that happens now, especially after reading this chapter, that I need to kind of take a second, count to 10 maybe, and just realize, okay, this is emotion, let's handle this in a better way. 5, equity. Fair, just, and non-biased exchange between people, and the equal opportunity is kind of what this is referring to. This could be a threat when one's group is being subjected to unearned disadvantage, or receiving unearned advantage, or distancing oneself from unearned advantage. So I know as a woman, is when I kind of fall back on when explaining equity. So one thing that kind of bothers me, as well as probably most of the females in this class, is how most of the time our wage is lower than the male wage, and so this would kind of be a threat in that sense. Okay, you're going to be angry by this unjust behavior. So overall, the chapter wants you as a future teacher or current teacher to practice your emotional self-management. So be in touch with your emotions. Emotions are contagious. If you're in a good mood, your students will be in a good mood, and vice versa. It's crucial when working to empower dependent learners who are resistant out of fear. If they see your fear, that's just going to further dislodge their learning. Identify your triggers. Think about situations in advance and also past situations, and pre-program how your brain should want to react in your own opinion on how to handle those in a better situation, knowing what does kind of piss you off, essentially. Label your feelings when they come up. It helps reduce their intensity and reframe your negative feelings, so you're kind of rewiring your lizard brain in this sense. When they do come up, realize, okay, yep, that's a trigger. And observe what is happening to you and why. So in that type of situation where you are feeling triggered, that you need to kind of self-reflect and see, okay, what happens to me when I am angry, and why are you getting angry, and kind of reevaluate why you feel that way. And then create an early warning system. So notice your physical reaction, your tightening of jaw, flush feeling in your face, vocal cords tightening up. I know one of the things that causes all those reactions are when people in the bar I work at home start talking about Trump. Okay, I'm not a big fan of Trump, but a lot of them are Republicans, and they do not hesitate on voicing their opinion, and they try and kind of force it on me, and so I know that my jaw is tightening because I'm getting angry, and I'm trying to hold myself back from talking, and that my face gets a little red. So those are some things that I personally notice. Also, when I talked about giving yourself 10 seconds, whenever you are triggered, the book mentioned the SOTA strategy. So one is to stop, pause, rather than react, and remember to be open-minded to others' points of view. Observe, describe yourself in your head, what is happening in this situation. Give yourself time to think, okay, why am I perceiving this as a threat when it really isn't a threat? It's just emotions. Detach, forget about being right or exercising your power, like in my situation, exercising my opinion on politics, when sometimes defending ourselves is kind of like a battle you need to choose in certain situations, and put energy toward being responsive rather than reactive. So just saying, oh, okay, understanding someone else's opinion. And awaken, shift your focus from ourselves to the other person in front of you, to be present in that moment. So kind of put yourself in their shoes, like we talked about earlier. And you should be able to do this within 10 seconds, thinking about all of this, and then at the end of that 10 seconds, your lizard brain, your amygdala hijack should calm down, and you should be able to go back to your normal state of emotions. So I know this has been a crazy long video, and I apologize. This is just kind of some fun stuff that I like talking about. So my questions to you are on this slide, and go ahead and answer those with Dr. Newman and make your own kind of classroom discussion. Okay, thanks for listening, guys.